Dear friend, welcome back to this second episode on Sierra Leone. After the failing of the first resettlement attempt in Sierra Leone with the London's Black Poor, many other waves of immigrants arrived.
African History Daily by my daddy.
First, remember, some black loyalists of the American Revolution War were sent to Nova Scotia, right? Well, almost 2,000 among them sailed in 15 ships from Halifax and arrived in St. George Bay in 1792. There they established a new town called Freetown on the former site of the first Granville town, which had become then a jungle since destruction in 1789. So in fact, the first Granville town is not what became the current Freetown. That jungle was cleared until they reached a large cotton tree. Those who went to Sierra Leone would have heard about cotton tree. Soon, the old settlers were incorporated and about 400 Southern American-style houses were already built in 1798. But then a rebellion broke in the colony in 1800, and guess who helped suppress it? It's a third wave of settlers, a group of 500 Jamaican Maroons who were involved in the 8-month-long Second Maroon War against the British in Jamaica. They were resettled as well in Nova Scotia. What is worth mentioning here about Jamaican Maroon is that for half a century, they have been chasing the runaway black slaves. So Maroons were even given their own district named Maroon Town. While all this was going on, abolitionist effort finally paid off, and in 1807, slave trade was outlawed. The Royal Navy started to arrest and seize ships on the Atlantic. Between 1807 and 1864, when the last slave ship case was adjudicated in the Freetown courts, about 50,000 captives were freed from those vessels and released in Freetown. They were called captured Negroes, recaptives, or liberated Africans. There is your fourth layer of immigration. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that once Sierra Leone became an official colony in 1808, the city continued to grow with more new groups of people, many West Indians and even African soldiers who fought for Britain during the 5 wars against Napoleon's French Empire between 1803 and 1815. As you can see, black from the whole world were to meet in Freetown, and all this heterogeneous group of immigrants only had in common their skin colors or their former slave status. And what the British did not do in London, they did it in Freetown, trying to homogenize those groups using Christianism and education in the Freetown colony. The Anglicans opened boys' and girls' secondary schools and founded in 1827 Fourah Bay College, affiliated to University of Durham in England, later in 1876. Fourah Bay College was the only European-style university in West Africa and attracted Africans from many colonies in the region. The recaptives and their children, known as Creoles or Creoles, formed an educated West African elite. Meanwhile, the colony was still a small town, so Britain started using all means to gain more territory, killing and burning chiefdoms that refused the authority. Such aggressive behavior was even more intensified when the scramble for Africa started. In 1895, Britain decided unilaterally to establish a protectorate over the rest of the colony. The colony remained a distinct political entity, and the protectorate was governed from it. And little was done to extend education beyond the Creole. Just like in other British colonies, the title of king was abolished and replaced by paramount chief, more of servants or head of district, who were asked only one thing: obey the governor who selected them. A governor who was so arrogant that he decreed that a house tax was to be levied annually on every dwelling in the protectorate. That decision created a massive uprising led first by Babure, a Temne chief. This is known as Högstads Wars. However, by the end of the year, him and 2 other leaders were exiled to the Gold Coast in 1899. Sierra Leone remained divided into a colony and a protectorate, with separate and different political systems constitutionally defined for each until the Second World War, during which Freetown served as a critical convoy station for Allied ships. Then after the war, the British government gave in to national demands in Sierra Leone as elsewhere in West Africa. Democratic institutions were hurriedly constituted. The small Creole minority, which had held senior official posts in the 19th century, hoped to entrench their right politically. Antagonism between the two entities escalated to a heated debate in 1947. Sir Milton Margai managed to get support from the educated protectorate elite, the paramount chiefs, and then the 1951 constitution gave control to the majority. Sir Milton Margai flew with others to Lancaster House in London for negotiation for independence, which finally happened on April 27, 1961. Sir Milton Margai became the country's first prime minister, but he died unfortunately just 3 years later, leaving behind a country that enjoyed a prosperous 10 years period before a long period of authoritarian governance and political instability with many coups and then a violent civil war from 1991 to 2002. There is no point for me to detail what a civil war entails. Well, it was even featured in a Hollywood movie, so enough was said about that. The message for me here is that the country is recovering and has many good things to discover. This is what Mrs. Manuma Kamapumayo, a Sierra Leonean from the diaspora, did by co-writing this series with me. If you too are from Sierra Leone, then tell me what you know about the cotton tree, Bunce Island, Dublin in Banana Island, York, St. John's Maroon Church, Old Fourah Bay College, the Martello Tower, the 3 old city boundary guns, the Wharf steps, and old guardhouse. Yes, do that and do justice to your amazing country, probably the most Pan-African one in Africa, if one is to judge by the origin of all its people. Finally, I want to dedicate this episode to Amina, Sanu, and John K., the best mechanic ever, who I met in 2012 in Freetown, and also to all survivors and to the memory of the more than 50,000 innocents who lost their lives during the war. My African cliché of the day is that of a passive and unambitious Africa. Quite the opposite of the life of one of the greatest Africans in history, a pioneer in many fields. A Creole of Sierra Leone, James Africanus Bill Horton was a surgeon, soldier, and nationalist who challenged the then dominant theories on the inferiority of Africans and proposed ideologies for the autonomy of the continent. His philosophies became the basis of future independence struggles. He was furthermore a pioneer in philanthropy for Africans by Africans. In particular, he offered scholarships to young promising students. He also took a keen interest in the technical and economic development of Africa, opening a bank to finance local entrepreneurs and putting forward proposals for gold mining and railroad construction in Ghana. His business activities and investment in gold mine made him one of the richest men in Africa in 1880. He died 3 years later in Freetown, an incredible pioneer and intellectual who deserved to be better known. Thank you guys and see you on board again soon. Bye.